to another Black Horizons program. We're glad that you could take time out to join us. For the past several weeks, large crowds in the Halifax Dartmouth metropolitan area have been flocking to see Richard Attenborough's Academy Award winning movie Ghandi. In today's program, we'll take a critical look at that movie and discuss Ghandi and his politics. I have joining me on the program to share his views on the film and on Ghandi and his politics Nazir Rzvi, who is a teacher of social studies at the Cole Harbour High School in Halifax County. And Mr. Rzvi is also a member of the Caribbean Information Group. Brother Nazir, welcome back to the Black Horizons program.
Thank you very
You're
much,
almost
sir.
getting to be a regular feature on our program these past couple of weeks.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to begin by asking you of your overall assessment of Attenborough's movie Ghandi.
Yes, I think the certain facts of the films are now well known to everyone. One is that it is a wonderful achievement, especially in film industry where serious films and especially progressive films are very rare. Another thing is that definitely Richard Attenborough's personal devotion to Gandhi and his conviction is very, very much visible in the film. Another factor comes in the film is that so much time and money has been spent to popularize such a serious and difficult person to be understood, especially in the Western world and modern generation. So, in nutshell, the film is a great achievement indeed. There is no doubt about it. Yes.
Well, now, from an ideological point of view, from your knowledge of the man Gandhi, where would you peg him? How would you characterize him?
You see, Gandhi is such a lofty personality and so well known that some people have already mentioned that Gandhi can be taken not only as a historical figure, even a great religious figure in the category of Jesus Christ, and people of that caliber, that he is well known to many, many people. But Gandhi is not a very simplistic figure that he can be understood in one term or in one category. So the very question of yours is ideological, which is definitely controversial as well as multidimensional. Gandhi ideologically as a student of Tolstoy, also a very spiritual man, believing in the goodness of man. He is also a great believer of people's righteousness. In that way, you can term him definitely the believer of non-violent, what we call it ahimsa in our Indian language. He is also a believer that the character of people and the very devotion of people can change and can confront any situation indeed. So ideologically, he is a believer of passive resistance in the terms of methodology, in the terms of again his tactics. He believes in non-violent. But in the terms of social changes, his ideology is not as revolutionary as some people would like to term it. And therefore, in Indian situation or in the third world situation, it will not be wrong to interpret Gandhi as a middle class oriented nationalist who sees that reformist movement and gradual changes would change the total society. So in that way, he is not a revolutionary when it comes in the social term, but he is quite revolutionary in another dimension, which perhaps I would bring later on.
Right. Well, going back, if I could, for a minute, back to the film, are there any criticisms that you have of Attenborough's film?
Yes, I do have. I think one is a very obvious one, that the film is definitely more, I would say, effective when it comes to South Africa and his work and his devotion as well as his personality comes out very clearly. The film is very good. But when it appears on the Indian scene, the film can create certain misconceptions. And one of them is that India, after all, was a divided India and Pakistan, which was totally against the will of Gandhi. Gandhi always saw India as one. To him, there was no difference between Hindus and Muslims, and that was the struggle he always had in his life. And unfortunately, he did not succeed. And that failure is shown in the film towards the end in a manner that it appears that it was not something of that importance and significance. In other words, it is not very effective. Another thing is that the film does not really elaborate that the cause of the division was far more than Jinnah, who was the leader of Pakistan's foundations. It is that things were deeper, and the film does not really explain very well. Another weakness in the film is that most of the Western audience have been rather lost, that who was that guy who shot Gandhi? Why did he shoot? In other words, the film does not explain that the very extreme right wing, what we call it RSS movement, was quite reactionary to the partition to the extent that even Gandhi was hated, who stood for one India. And there would have been some suggestion made in the film about that movement. And then the particular person who shot Gandhi, Godse, should have been brought out so that people could understand that it is not just one mad person shooting Gandhi. It was a particular group, an ideological movement, and its roots are still in India, and that's a great weakness in explaining to the unknown people.
Do you think that I think perhaps we might be able to infer from what you've already said, but do you think that the movie, I guess perhaps the movie's preoccupation with the character of Gandhi perhaps doesn't really give you an adequate concept of just what life in India, what India was like?
Yes, I mean, that one I think can be very easily acceptable to all of us, that in 3 hours, 15 minutes, you cannot explain everything indeed. And it is quite understandable that it was not done, it could not be done, though there are glimpses and there are certain shots which show the poverty, the hunger, how the peasant is coming to Gandhi, and he explains, and the suggestion of moneylender and the exploitation. You know, they are coming, but they are not coming definitely with that force which were there, and that is that again is not really possible. If I would rather think that there should have been a series, or like roots or of any of that kind, which is not possible on the screen. Only then both Gandhi and India could be explained. In my last word, I would say that this film does a wonderful job where the people have to question more what India is, rather than thinking that it is a Commonwealth country where election takes place periodically, the most popular democracy. I think it really raises more questions than answers.
Well, maybe that might be a future project for you. Maybe you can convert the movie to a TV series, perhaps. Well, I'd like to turn to some discussion of your understanding and your opinion of Gandhi. Gandhi was quoted as saying at one time that even if I were assured that we would have independence by means of violence, I should refuse to have it. What, in your view, was Gandhi's impact with respect to independence coming to India?
As far as Gandhi's personal conviction was concerned, he really believed the old theory that both means and end, that any end is not worth if it is not achieved by very noble means. And Gandhi's noble means were non-violent. So naturally, that's what he said, and that's what he believed. But what is questionable here, that is it an absolute theory? which should be used all the time.
Certainly for Gandhi it was.
Yes, but even there, it is very doubtful because this is where sometimes the criticism has been used. For example, Gandhi did not hesitate to tell that violence against Hitler was not justified. He did not allow conscription in India, but he did not oppose during World War II the recruitment of the Indians going and fighting for the British, because Indians were really fighting for the British as a part of the British colonialism, and Gandhi stood by it. Even in South Africa, he did not want to fight for the British against Boer, but he did participate in activities, what you call it, Red Cross type. In other words, so in that way, I don't think what Gandhi says can be termed in the absolute way. There have been contradiction in his lifetime.
But this is what it was, though, was it not? It was a contradiction. I mean, he
Yes,
he
yes.
didn't ever openly or directly support the war, for example. But there were obvious contradictions in,
Yes,
in the
there were.
positions. He
There-
didn't
there-
speak
there-
out against it, though.
Yes, he did not. I mean, that's one is. And I think what I would say that it is really not the weakness of because of Gandhi, rather than what he desired, what he wished, and what he ended up doing, which happened to many of us. For example, Gandhi also says on one occasion that if there is a choice between um, um, timidity and cowardice, if there is a choice between violence and cowardice, he would choose violence and he would not choose timidity or cowardice. So again, you can see that what Gandhi himself wants to do and what really he ends up doing when he is with the masses, that contradiction does exist, and I don't think how he could manage without it. You see.
Well, Gandhi, I recall reading some material, and Gandhi was being pursued about his views with respect to socialism. And he indicated that I believe in nonviolent communism, which would give one the impression that he agreed with the goals of socialism, but disagreed with the means of achieving those goals.
Yeah. Again, it is the same thing which I was talking about, that I think he can be termed very much like early 19th century Robert Owen in England, who was appalled with the poverty and also degrading condition of the people. And he was appealing even dukes and princes that if we all give money and if we all come together, there is no need, let us change the environment. So therefore, Gandhi did realize that the solution was, if we use English term, socialism or humanism, but that was the solution. He was quite clear about it, but he did not agree with the means, because perhaps he thought that the revolutionary means meant always bloodshed and killing, which is really not the case. Revolutionary means are something more than that. So in that manner, Gandhi stands more like a saint to some people, a great politician to other group. Gandhi stands a great tactician to other people. He can also be termed as a very spontaneous person who just decides to do something. He has so many dimensions of his personality, but definitely he was not a believer of scientific socialism as we understand it.
Right. Do you think that his understanding, one might take from your answer, you might be inferring that his understanding of socialism was somehow incomplete? Would you
Actually,
say so?
Gandhi's understanding of socialism is that he definitely relied on some of the very deep-rooted ancient culture of India, where each village community
Yes.
was a sort of symbol and it could manage. In other words, he was so traditionalist and spiritualist that it was very hard for him to believe that in order to achieve socialism, you do not just go for the economic gains, you have also to wipe out a lot of traditionals, beliefs which are not necessarily relevant in a changing world. And that was the greatest problem for Gandhi. It was more, I would say, he was in that way he was very conservative.
Hmm. But I guess the essence of my question was: do you feel that he devoted in-depth study to scientific socialism and then rejected it, or
I would say he was aware of it,
Right.
because when he knew Tolstoy so much, and he was in the West, he was in South Africa, he knew it, but it never attracted him,
Mhm.
unlike Nehru.
Right.
While Nehru's total attention was on scientific socialism. So, in that way, he was opposed to Nehru, and they were two different personalities. So, definitely, Gandhi was indifferent to scientific socialism.
Right. Well, when he was talking about the contradictions, the obvious contradictions in the Indian society, the class struggle there, he said his suggestion was that when labor is intelligent enough to organize itself and to learn to act as one man, it will have the same weight as money, if not greater.
Yes.
How would you?
I think uh, again, this particular quotation, it has a lot of weight, but one has to look at any quotation in a very concrete situation. You see, first of all, when Gandhi talks about labor, the word labor in India at that time cannot be used in the terms of labor in United States or in industrial society like England. Labor in India meant peasants. It was India at that time, especially, and to great length now, was and is a feudal society. So, in feudal society, the organization in the terms of trade unionism is not possible. It is a peasant society.
Mhm.
And therefore, when Gandhi is talking about money, then he talks about money. In a way, Gandhi is using word money more as a means of survival, because when Gandhi says you go back to the villages and let us have the uplift of the villages, it is not a market economy in the villages.
Mhm.
So therefore, the question of money does not come as much as it comes the power of owning.
Mhm.
You see, the peasantry was completely disowned as far as land, any power was concerned. And therefore, I don't think that this quotation would be so apting to accept this idea that when the labor is organized, now then he doesn't tell how the labor would be organized. When the labor is organized, or when all the people are socially conscious, everything would be okay. But the point is, who is going to do it? What are the methods of doing it? And that is the greatest drawback in Indian nationalism, really, that it is quite all right to fight British imperialism, and they did well, and they sacrificed their life, and this is a mass movement. But the point is, uh, how about the trade unionism? How they are going to face the internal problem which has been so old in India for centuries?
Mhm. Well, we were saying earlier that Gandhi placed a lot of emphasis on reformation and appealing to the positive aspects of human nature as a means of resolving some of the obvious contradictions in society. I think this was perhaps based on his faith that human nature is never beyond redemption. He, for example, said that or projected the concept of the rich as the trustees for the poor, placing emphasis, of course, on their sense of duty, indicating that the rich should only take what they need from their wealth for their legitimate needs, and the rest of their or the remainder should be used for society. Would this kind of thing kind of utopian in your view, or what's your opinion or assessment of that kind of?
I think this is the concept on which the progressives do criticize Gandhi more, perhaps far more than they should. The idea that it first of all, it is a very paternalistic idea, that the rich are the custodian, which really right away accepts another concept that the poor are dumb and they need the help of the rich from the point of view that they should look after them. Another thing is that here Gandhi deliberately, as an honest believer, does not accept that there is a class conflict between the rich and the poor. Uh, they can be custodian, but of what kind? Uh, they can be very kind and compassionate to them, but how much? Another thing is that, as you just said, that human nature, but the point is, why should poor not be self-reliant? I think what Gandhi does not say and does not elaborate very much is that what are the causes of poverty? How did the rich become rich? Why the poor remain poor? He has written and said quite a lot about what you call it the caste system about India, and especially the working class or peasants, that means the Harijan. But again, his outlook is full of compassion and kindness, and that idea is really very dangerous in 20th century in the sense that it is the duty of the rich to look after, and it is more or less their kindness which give good life to the poor people. It is not the rights of the people, the disowned, the poor, the pauper, the exploited, the oppressed, to take up and take it because they have been denied. And that one is definitely very, very critical outlook of Gandhi from the point of view of the progressive people, and I do subscribe to it.
Merci. Well, I think one has only to look to the contemporary experience of to see the impact of the caste system on the poor in India. I mean, even though since independence and even though legislation and so on, you still see these contradictions that are existing, which perhaps would perhaps point to some of the problems or the fallacy or the inappropriateness of such a suggestion in a society such as India, for example.
The Indian writers themselves, really we have not go to the outside world. Even Nehru himself said, somebody asked Nehru, what were the main problems of India? And he said, there were as many problems as many poor people in India. And there is no doubt about it that the Indian leaders have been very courageous and honest, and Nehru on the top of it, in accepting this problem. And you are quite correct. All the legislations are very progressive. As a matter of fact, Indian Constitution does use word socialism. But there is one thing which is on the paper, and there is another thing which is in practice. And I think the reason it has not come so much in practice is that it was very hard for Gandhi and also his successors to realize that there would be opposition. The legislation is one thing, but the people who are going to lose, they are not going to give in just because it has been legislated. And that is such a fantastic problem in India that I don't think, personally, I don't believe that any legislation in India is going to solve the problem of that gap, that rich are getting richer and poor are being deprived more and more, and misery has increased for the majority and prosperity for a tiny minority.
Appealing to one's good nature may not have all the answers. But look, there's so many interesting things we could get off on in terms of this discussion, but in the 5 minutes or so that we have remaining, a lot of people have hailed the movie Ghandi as coming as a fresh breath in this very tense time where we have two superpowers poised one against the other, the threat of nuclear war being very real and so on. Does Gandhi's theory of, or Gandhi's tactics of nonviolence have any particular relevance in your view in terms of this nuclear age that we're living in?
First of all,
or is it just a romanticized?
Yes, I think first of all you have to realize that the as far as nuclear age is concerned, as far as these nuclear weapons are concerned, they are very, very dangerous, and I think the whole world should realize it, and sooner they realize, better it is. But this realization is more in the advanced Western world, and I would say in those countries who already created it. Because sometimes I've been questioned, how come the people maybe in India or in Bangladesh are not marching on nuclear war? But the problem is they did not. I mean, the nuclear weapons, where were they created? So who are the people who have created this situation in the Western world? So it is their duty, duty of all the people, but especially Western world, to realize what they have done. But the reason it is Gandhi is very appealing, I think it is not just pure coincidence that the film Gandhi has appeared now and people are seeing the film and Academy Award and all these things. This is all as a part of the movement. In the Western world, where comparatively society is prosperous and rich, though we have recession, this idea of non-violent and marching is so appealing to the middle class. It is so wonderful. People are so disciplined, they are doing everything, and with that kind of discipline, non-violent, romantic way, they can solve all the problem of the world. They would lose nothing except that they would win the heart of the people. So in that way, there is no doubt about it that in certain situation, yes, I think this is a wonderful method what Gandhi already preached. But in many situations, take for example, when the same thing is applied to El Salvador or Nicaragua, people are not suggesting, I hope not, that let us have non-violent marches, because if they have non-violent marches, they will all disappear. So it is really, it depends, the method depends what the situation is, what kind of war is, whether we are appealing to the middle class or we are fighting for the working class. In other words, the class struggle has to come in, though there is a class struggle in the nuclear weapon too, but not to the extent as I just quoted Nicaragua and El Salvador. So the non-violent movement and its appeal to the Western world is definitely is a sophisticated middle class phenomenon, and that is why they are adoring it.
Well, unfortunately, our time has come to an end. I want to thank you for sharing your views on Gandhi the movie and Gandhi the man. We want to thank you for watching our program. Join us next week. Hello, welcome to another episode of Black Horizons. Thank you for taking time out to join us. Today we'll be talking about basketball. If you thought that basketball was finished for this year, you're wrong. Once again, tournament fever is beginning to develop as black basketball teams from across the province of Nova Scotia prepare for the annual Brian Darrell basketball tournament to be held at the St. Pat's Junior High School on the weekend of May 19th, 20th, and 21st. In today's program, we'll talk to Terry Symonds, who is the tournament coordinator, about the history of the tournament and this year's program. Terry, welcome to the Black Horizons program.
Thank you.
Could you tell us, before we get into a discussion of this year's program, a little bit about the history of the tournament, how it got started, and so on?
Okay. Approximately 10 years ago, Brian Darrell is a gentleman who is from Ontario who married a Nova Scotian lady. Decided to have some recreational basketball during the Christmas break, during the Christmas school break. And we all used to take part in it at St. Pat's High School at that time. There used to be teams from Windsor, Nova Scotia, Yarmouth, Halifax, Beachville, Preston areas, and we used to all compete together. And then we decided that, it was really a good recreational experience, so that, maybe we should try to make the thing a little bigger and a little more competitive. So what we did is that we devised a program which we've been running for the last 4 years with an A division and a B division. And what I mean by that is the A division is called the competitive division. And in the competitive division, we have a lot of ex-university ball players and ball players who play in the senior level in the Halifax Senior Men's Basketball League. We have in the B division, which we consider our recreational division, and what we wanted to be a fun division, a division where people who don't play on a regular basis can come out and just have, as a community effort, come out and have a great time playing some basketball and meet other people from around the province. And we thought this division would be the drawing card to the tournament, and it is. And the recreation division, though, has turned into be quite competitive. It's not as fun as for the players as we thought it would be. It's fun for the fans from the different communities, but it's extremely competitive. So both divisions are competitive, but we have, I would say, the cream of the crop, I guess, in the A division, competitive division.
Mm-hmm.
This format has been going on for the last 4 years, as you said, at St. Pat's Alexander School on Maitland Street.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, the name of the tournament is the Brian Darrell Tournament. Has it always been known as that, or is that a recent development after?
No, basically it was just a Christmas tournament before, and it was sponsored by the Provincial Black Basketball Association, which Brian formed before he left. And we, as the Provincial Black Basketball Association, have continued on. And we thought, we should start putting a name to this tournament. I mean, let's have a name. Let's put it in honor of somebody. We thought about a whole bunch of historical people that we should name it after. And then we started, Brian was gone at this time. He's in Hamilton. We would start saying, this is crazy. Brian is the one who originated the tournament. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had the fun that we had all those Christmas breaks. So we put it in honor of him. A lot of people thought it was kind of weird because you usually name, when you put it in honor of somebody, they're usually either passed away or whatever, or an older person. But Brian's young, and he showed initiative and given us all kinds of recreation because he doesn't play himself. We thought it was a good idea to name it after him, and that's what we've done.
Well, spring seems like or early summer seems like an odd time to be playing basketball. Normally basketball is finishing.
Mm-hmm.
How did you move from, and why did you move from having it at Christmas and to the spring time of year?
Basically, Mother Nature. She's not too cooperative in the winter. Storms pop up and your tournament's on the blink, and you really can't run it. People from the different communities, such as Yarmouth, Windsor, and the outlying areas of Halifax, just don't get to travel in. They don't want to take the risk to come up here and to get stranded for the weekend, even. So spring was a great time. It gave the people in the competitive division, the university players, a chance to play too, because they're either playing for their respective schools or tied up in exams. So as you notice, it's in May, so it's after exams, and I think it's a really good time. Plus, and the other reason is to bring the social aspect in before summer comes in. We have several sporting events, such as the golf tournament in Truro, which is, I think, in August. And we have the softball tournament, which is Labor Day weekend. We feel that our basketball tournament, really kind of brings the spring fever and sets all those other events off. The other thing is that we didn't want to compete with any other event. We think that people should have a choice, one choice at that time. If they choose to come, well, then they can choose to relax on that weekend or whatever they want to do. We didn't want to have the golf tournament, the softball tournament all bunched together. And this way, it's spread out. It's May, and then and then it's August, and and then it's September. So
Right.
it's all spread out. And they can kind of plan their spring and summer.
All good and valid reasons. Could you tell us something about the organization that goes into a tournament like this? Who's involved? For example, you were mentioning the Provincial Basketball Association. Is that still active, or?
Yes, we're active. We're a group of 7 men at the present time, and we all based in Halifax, which is not good. Being named the Provincial Black Basketball Association, and most of us are based in Halifax. But we just don't have the financial resources to have representatives from all over the province at the present time to bring them in for regular meetings and whatever. And as tournament time comes, you need to have regular meetings, which we are having. So we are trying to promote basketball among the different communities in the province. Our success in that has been limited. We've not really developed a whole bunch of programs that Brian and the rest of us wanted to do when we first started, because of financial things. We do make some money from the tournament, but all of our money is donated out to different organizations, and our primary organization has been Koala's Free Hot Lunch Program, and we've donated our money there. Of course, we have to keep some money in reserve for capital expenses to start the tournament off every year. So we're strictly a nonprofit. All of our board of directors are volunteer, and we just put the time in, and that's basically it. We also do some fundraising. People think that their entry fee covers the cost of the tournament, and I would like to say that it doesn't nearly cover the cost of the tournament. At the tournament, we have T-shirts, and each player on each team gets a T-shirt, and each T-shirt costs us $6.10, and if you add that up over 12 T-shirts, I mean, it adds up. I forget what the price is. It's close to like $70. They pay an entry fee of $135. We have official costs, which they vary from year to year, and but it averages to about $500 over the weekend.
That's the cost for the referees.
Just for the official. That we haven't got to gym rental yet. And I don't need to tell the people out there the gym rental is expensive if they're into basketball and they played anywhere in the province with the school system. Not criticizing the school system, they would have to pay the janitors, and the janitors are expensive. And they get double time on Saturday, time and a half and double time on Saturday, and that is expensive. And then we go Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at that. So it's an expensive tournament, and people who think that $135 will cover it, they should try to run the basketball tournament for $135. It just doesn't. So the 7 of us are mainly out there fundraising. And then once we get the funds together, then we're out there to put the tournament on and organize it.
Well, now, what kinds of things go on behind the scenes in terms of putting on a tournament like this? How many months' work are involved?
Okay.
And what kinds of activities do you have to get involved in?
Okay, to start the tournament off, basically what we do is we drop our application, and that doesn't take very much time. And we'd like to try to get that out as early as possible. So we start meeting in approximately January. And we met in January this year, the end of January. And we met to drop what we want to put on our application, what new rules that we want to implement, what old rules we want to throw out. So once we do that, then we get the application out, and we had our application out by the end of February this year. And then what we do is start going and booking officials, and you have to start that early because it's spring and basketball is over. A lot of officials are tired of doing basketball, so you have to kind of encourage them to put an effort in. It's a long weekend in May, so it's really hard to get officials, so you have to really start early and get commitments from them. And gym rental, you have to start early with the schools and asking them, can we have the gym, and if there's any rule changes with them, and they have different rule changes from year to year on what you are allowed to do in the gym and what you're not, and so we get all that straight. It's not a really difficult thing to do, but they are time consuming because we all work full time also. It's not like we're not do this on our spare time. Then basically what we do after that is try to go after corporate sponsors to help us out, because as I said, the $135 does not cover the tournament, not nearly. It doesn't give us nearly enough money. Predominantly we try to go after maybe the breweries or some of the major people such as maybe Maritime Tel and people, and companies such as in that light, the big companies, Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola or something like that, and find out if they have any corporate dollars that they would like to throw in to the tournament for their promotional type thing, and we push their products, and that takes a lot of time because that's all done in our spare time after work or even during work on your breaks or your lunch hours, and that's time consuming. Then after we made that commitment, then we move on and actually start setting up schedules and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we contact the people and whatever.
Right. Well, now you were talking about the 6 or 7 of you who are volunteering your time and so on. Going back to the structure of the Provincial Basketball Association, is this is your association an incorporated association where people are elected, or is it primarily open-ended kind of thing for people who want to volunteer their time, who want to promote basketball?
No, we're with the Joint Stocks. We're a registered non-profit organization. We have a constitution. We have elections. The presidency runs for an election of 2 years, and we have in our constitution the members can stay on as long as basically we can add to our organization. If there's anybody out there who's interested in helping us and becoming a member, they can speak to me at tournament time, and we can I'll take their name and we'll make arrangements for them to come in. What we basically do, 7 of us, is to vote on the incoming people.
Yes.
And we need a 3/4 percentage for an acceptance into the thing. It started out with 4 of us, and as you can see, it's grown.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's an extensive constitution actually.
Right. Well, now you mentioned that there was an entry fee of $135 per
Yes.
team. How are the teams chosen? Is it an invitational thing, or how does a team get involved in the tournament?
Okay. Basically, what we've done is we've taken names of people who came to the first ones before we even got it settled into St. Pat's Alexandria on this new program that we have with the competitive and recreation. We sent applications out to them, and from there they've sent other names, like my cousin or who lives in Yarmouth wants an application, or and it just spread.
Mm-hmm.
So inquiries came to basically Brian's house at that time, and now they come to my house, and I send applications out to anybody who inquires about the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically how it is. Now we have a first come first serve type thing. The deadline, in other words, we won't accept any applications after, like this year, we wouldn't accept any applications after April 5th.
Is it a time locked thing, or is it a team number thing? You get a certain number of teams and you cut off, or just however
Right.
many come in before the deadline?
Okay, if this year, if we would have had more teams, we were willing to expand, but as of April 5th, we didn't. As of April 5th, we had 10 teams, and that's what we settled on. We were pretty firm this year, and we got from different communities who got their applications in late. We got criticized for being firm. We should have, opened it up again and let more teams in because there was difficulties on their home front and why they couldn't get their applications in on time. We felt that we had the applications out in plenty of time. We had them at the end of February. Didn't have to be back until the April 5th. We felt that to run the tournament the way we wanted it run, that we have to start being firm, because if we're not, it's just going to be helter-skelter. So we want to become more regimental and more firm on accepting applications. And we decided to do that this year, and we did. And so we had 8 applications, and we went with that. But if we had 9, we went with 9. If we would have had 10, we went with 10. I think our limit would have been 10 because it really gets expensive. And time, we're running it in 3 days.
Mm-hmm.
We only have 1 gym, so.
Right. Well, I understand this year that you're having, in addition to the teams that are coming from various parts of Nova Scotia, that you also have some teams that are coming from outside. A team from New Jersey, I believe, and one from New Brunswick.
That's right. In the competitive division, we have a team from Ontario also. In the competitive division, we have a team from Newark, New Jersey, and we have also a team from Toronto. And they're both arriving here on the 19th of May, and they'll be playing in the competitive division. The American team heard about the tournament through an ex-St. Mary's players, Lee Thomas. He lives in New Jersey at the present moment. He was up last year, and he thought the tournament was fun. And he wrote us this year and asked us what we think about having an American team come up. The general response at first was, no, because we like to try to keep it all Nova Scotian. But we started thinking, like if he's interested, why not? I think it'd be a drawing card, and we're here to promote basketball. And hopefully they'll help us promote it. The Ontario team, this is not the first time we had teams from Ontario. We had a group of gentlemen down from the association called the Maroons. They were mostly of West Indian descent, and they came down and they played 2 years in a row. And the word has spread around in the Toronto area, so now we have another team coming down of predominantly ex-Nova Scotians. Apparently, I guess, talking to Robert Rzvi, who is the representative in Toronto, that they were born in either Nova Scotia or Toronto, but their parents are originally Nova Scotians, so they're mostly all coming back.
Mhm.
So it should be fun. It's like coming home to them. So it should be fun that way. So they're coming down and playing a competitive division also. Then we have Armand Drummond, which is Mr. Joseph Drummond's son, and he's bringing a team in from New Brunswick, and they heard through the grapevine about the tournament too, and he wrote me, and he's got an application, and he got accepted. And this is why we couldn't accept those other teams from, well, we felt we couldn't. I mean, if an application can go to Toronto, Ontario, or Newark, New Jersey, or St. John, New Brunswick, and they can get it in way before April 5th, which all three of those teams did. If you live within a radius of 300 miles of Halifax, I can't see why your application can't be in on April 5th, and that's basically why we got quite firm.
Right.
And felt bad, but that's the way the situation
Well,
is.
maybe as the tournament goes along and they become more professional in the organization and so on, people become to appreciate deadlines a little better, perhaps. In the competition now, are there two championships now? One in both of the divisions, one in the recreational and one in the competitive as well, or?
That's right.
Yeah.
We have the championship game in both divisions. And I have to admit, the recreation division is probably basically a drawing card, even though the better caliber ball might be in the A division. I mean, because your community is playing, so you go out and you see, your friends actually play in the championship game. So it's a drawing card, and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, are there any games, even though there are championships in each respective division, are there any interlocking games, like the champions of the two respective divisions pay off?
Not at all. It especially this year, it would just not be fair, because the competitive division it's a competitive division. We have some really high profile players who have played here in Nova Scotia. We have Mike Hazard, who played at Acadian, all Canadian when he was here. Lee Thomas, as I mentioned, from New Jersey, who was all Canadian. We have Teddy Upshaw, who played at Acadia, all Canadian. You have Sean Park, who played at St. Avex. You have, you have high-profile players. You have Doc Ryan, who played on the Canadian national team. You have it doesn't compare to who are going to be playing in the recreational division. People in the recreational division are playing for fun. And not saying that the competitive division isn't, but I mean, it's that they're players of really high-caliber ball.
Right. So you're moving to the two divisions, the competitive and the recreational division. Perhaps has allowed you to deal with. I remember some years ago, there used to be some critics who used to argue that the tournament was stacked in favor of the of the Halifax team by virtue of the fact that many of the ex-varsity varsity players lived in the Halifax Dartmouth area and so on. These players, are they still eligible to play in the recreational division, or are they pretty
No.
much confined to the competitive division?
They're basically they're confined to the competitive division. The rules state that the competitive division, you can play in any caliber of ball, except for, you couldn't be a pro. And we wouldn't let an NBA person play, but we don't have any problems with that. But in the B division, or the recreation division, they're only allowed 2 university players on their team. And we screen the university players that they have on their team. Like, for instance, if like Teddy Upshaw is from Windsor. If Windsor had Teddy on the team, we would not let Teddy play in the B division.
By virtue of the fact that he's been, let's say, a varsity ball player?
And a player of his caliber. It's not the point that he's a varsity ball player. I mean, he's all Canadian. He's led the Atlantic Conference, as an all-star. I mean, that type of player. I don't think he would get any challenge out of playing. I don't think Teddy would play in that division in the first place, but that and it would give Windsor an unfair advantage. I mean, Teddy could score as many points as he felt like scoring, because it would basically be nobody as big or as strong and with the experience.
So it's a kind of a flexible kind of thing in terms of deciding who goes in what particular division. I mean, it doesn't necessarily, by definition, if you weren't an ex-varsity player, for example, if your skills were such that you should properly be in the competitive division, you might be.
The rule reads, if you're university or equivalent.
I see.
There are a lot of ball players who play in Nova Scotia who are Nova Scotian who could have played university if they chose to go that far.
Yeah.
And they didn't. They decided to either, do whatever they're doing in life right now.
But they can compete at the recreational level.
No,
they cannot.
No, they cannot. I can't use any examples at the present moment, but no, they cannot. Neither they would be classified as,
Does this cause you any problems in terms
Yes.
of trying to define?
It does, but when the rules go out on the application form, it just states, all decisions made by the board of directors are final.
Mhm.
And if you choose not to go by those rules, just don't enter. I mean, I know that sounds, like a lot of people say, well, geez, cocky, but I mean, that's basically it. I mean,
Somebody has to.
yeah, somebody has to make the rules,
Right, right. Well, now, not to detract from the tournament at all, because I understand it's something that's looked forward to with a lot of anticipation by a number of people in our communities. But some of your critics have argued that there have been some problems in the past, particularly with relation to scheduling, for example. So too many games in one day, last minute changing in the schedules, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Is there any validity to those critics?
Okay, I basically would probably agree with the critics about the too many games in one day, but unless they can afford to spend a whole weekend in the gym, that's no problem. We could switch the tournament to 4 or 5 days, but who wants to give the whole long weekend up
Yeah.
for 4 or 5 days? Also, they should understand before they fill the application. It's right on there, 19th, 20th, and 21st, 3 days, double elimination. If you've played any basketball, you should understand how the schedule is going to run if you've been in any tournaments. And we're not the only tournament that runs more than one game a day. If you've played it, like high school ball, they play sometimes 2 games in a day, even at the provincial level. So I have to agree with them. There's a lot of games. You have to be in shape.
Mhm.
But if you're going out there for the fun of it, you get 12 players. That's what. See, I think people keep forgetting that it's supposed to be for the fun of it. I mean, and you have 12 players. I mean, I think they can go for 2 games, no problem.
Mhm.
So on Thursday and Friday, they only play 1 game, but on Saturday, they can play a maximum of 2 games. That's right.
Well, now you were mentioning
Now, the
earlier.
scheduling,
Yeah,
I have to disagree with them. I don't think that the schedule has changed. I think what they might be talking about is the time slots, and we don't have any control of that. If a game goes into overtime, it goes into overtime. You have
Yes.
to finish it.
Yes.
And that's all I can say to them about that.
But they're not really valid to suggest that there've been.
There hasn't been any schedule
Yes.
changes. If you're supposed to play somebody at a particular time, you play them at that particular time unless the game previous to yours went into overtime.
Right.
For instance, we never moved the game up without their knowledge or moved the game ahead without their knowledge, except for if the previous game went into overtime or something like that.
Right.
So no, the scheduling changes I don't understand.
Right.
But I welcome them to come see me and we can discuss it.
Well, you were mentioning earlier about the referees in the tournament.
Mhm.
How do you get the referees? Where are these?
Have no control over the referees. They're all rated officials in the province of Nova Scotia, though.
Yeah.
We go through the provincial body of
Yes.
referees to go. So, complaints, all I can say to the people is that you should address them to that provincial body if you think they're incompetent. But all joking aside, I think the referees do.
But the
And
point
a
is, that these
job.
are not people that just come in off the street. These are all rated referees. You go through a.
When we first started the tournament, we used to do that to keep the cost and things down. But in this format, no. In this format, they are rated officials, the same officials that you see doing the college games, the high school games, and the senior, same exact officials, paying the same exact rate. So it's not like they're off the street now. In no way. In the
Right.
last 4 years, in no way. Nobody can say that. If they haven't been to our tournament, if they said that.
Right.
They've been to some other tournament. They had to be.
Right. There's also, putting basketball aside for a moment, there's also quite a social
Mhm.
aspect of the tournament as well. Could you comment a bit on that, Terry?
Okay, what we also the tournament is based on a social activity. That's what I want to get through to people. It's based on we want to bring as many people to Halifax to have some fun as possible, and to help you have some fun, we try to have some functions. And this year, what we're having on the 19th, we're going to have a players' reception. Since we have teams from outside the province coming in, we like them to meet some native Nova Scotians, not necessarily Halifax people, but native Nova Scotians. So Toronto and New York and St. John can come in. We're going to have a players' reception on the 19th, which is Thursday, at Club 55, which is on the corner of Garish and Gottingen. On the 20th and 21st, we're going to have dances. We have one on Friday night where the players get in free, and it's just something to promote have the players have a good time. They travel all this time and played all those games, so they go free, and that's on Friday night. But unfortunately for everybody else, it will be $3 cover charge. I wish we could let everybody free in, but we can't. And then on Saturday night we have our closing dance, and that's also where we give out the awards. and that will be Saturday, and that will be at the Open Circle also. I'm saying the Open Circle is actually not that anymore, but I think people
That's a
in
location.
the listening
Yeah.
audience will know what I'm talking about, and that's on Goddard Street, corner of Goddard and Cornwallis.
Are you happy with the support that the tournament's getting from the community?
Yes, I hesitate because I feel that we could be more successful with a lot more support, not in attendance wise, but just even moral support. As I said, we have our critics, and I have to laugh because I mean we have a lot of them, but they're not running the tournament. When we're looking for manpower, we get the excuse that well, I'm not playing, I'm here to watch, and I don't feel like I just don't have the time to help you. And from some of the players, we just ask to do some minor things. I mean, we're asking them. I paid my money. Why should I? And
So you could use some more volunteers to help
Sure
out with
could.
the organizational aspects, logistics.
and we
aspects.
do. I'm not saying we do have a lot of people helping us. But we do get twice as many saying those types of things, and it's really heartening.
Yeah.
But fan support. Oh, people come out and support their communities.
It's catching
and
on.
I And I like that. I mean, unfortunately, Preston's not in the tournament last year, but I have to give their community a lot of credit. Boy, last year they supported their team, and I hope that the fans out there will support their different communities too.
Right. Well, in the couple of minutes that we have left remaining on today's program, Terry, you mentioned at the top of the program today that there were some things that you had been discussing some time ago that you would have liked to see the Provincial Basketball Association involving itself in.
Okay.
Could you just spend a minute or two just commenting about some of your long-term visions, what some of the things you'd like to see happening?
What we would like to do is this: is that I'm finding that we have a lot of good ball players in the different communities, but they don't have the skills that they need. And I'm saying that in our outlying areas that we have people in the Halifax area, and we have people in different parts of the province. I would like to see a team of people travel to the different outlying areas and teach the basketball skills, especially during the summer. And we were hoping at one time have enough funds to do something like that, to actually take a weekend of every month maybe and go to Guysborough and rent a school gym so the community wouldn't even have to do it, and go in there and have a basketball clinic with such people as Robert Upshaw, who's a phys ed teacher, who's played at Acadia and knows his basketball. And Deshaun Parkers, the Mark Parkers, who are assistant coach at QEH, those type of people who know the game, the Bev Greenlaws, who coaches at the community YMCA. So, and these people know basketball. They know play it. They know the game on paper. They know it theoretically. They know the game. And they volunteer to do it, but they don't have the finances to do it themselves. So as an association, we were hoping to do something like that. The other thing is to set up a scholarship fund, and we made initial contacts, and I have to blame it on ourselves because Mr. Adams, Bob Adams, was great. He was ready to go and jump in with us and help us do it through the school system. Guy, I have to give him credit. He went and worked hard, and we just, as an organization, being volunteers, we just couldn't get ourselves together enough to get the money there. I'm hoping, and I hope Mr. Adams is going to be receptive, but I'm hoping to go back to him, and we're going to hopefully set up that scholarship fund this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to give him credit. He's ready to roll with it. It's just us getting ourselves together and get it going. We want to support students who are going to the vocational schools, not the university students. There's money out there for our black university students, but there's no money for our vocational students.
Terry, we've got to go. We've exhausted our time. You and the other organizers of the tournament, the best of luck. Hopefully things will go well in this year's tournament. I want to thank you for watching. Join us next week.